Some things look like strength: never admitting you're wrong, never showing emotion, always having the last word, getting revenge when someone hurts you, refusing to ask for help, standing your ground no matter what, and controlling everything around you. From the outside, these behaviors can look powerful. But what if some of them aren't strength at all? What if they're ways of protecting your ego, your fear, or your need to feel in control? Stoicism offers a different definition of strength. It doesn't ask you to become harder. It asks you to become more disciplined over yourself. Because anyone can react. Anyone can become angry. Anyone can defend their pride. Anyone can try to dominate a situation. But it takes real strength to remain in control of yourself when your emotions are demanding the opposite. Here are 7 things that can feel like strength, but may actually be making you weaker. Number 1. Never admitting you're wrong. Imagine someone points out a mistake you've made. Your first reaction is to defend yourself. You explain why you did it. You point out what the other person did wrong. You find a reason why your mistake wasn't really your fault. And eventually, the conversation isn't even about what happened anymore. It's about protecting your image. We often mistake this for confidence, but confidence doesn't need to be protected from the truth. A strong person can say, "I was wrong." They can listen without immediately becoming defensive. They can change their position when new information proves them wrong. Because being wrong isn't weakness. Refusing to learn from being wrong is. The Stoics placed enormous value on examining yourself. Not because you should constantly criticize yourself, but because you should be willing to see yourself honestly. If your ego can't survive being corrected, then your ego, not your reason, is in control. And that's not strength. That's dependence on being right. Number 2. Always needing the last word. Someone disagrees with you. You respond. They respond again. So you explain yourself again. Then they challenge your point. And now you can't let the conversation end. You need them to understand. You need them to admit you're right. You need the final sentence. But ask yourself something. Are you trying to communicate? Or are you trying to win? Those aren't always the same thing. Sometimes the strongest response is no response. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you've realized that continuing the argument won't change anything. You don't have to win every disagreement. You don't have to correct every opinion. And you certainly don't have to convince everyone that you're intelligent. There is power in knowing when a conversation has stopped being useful. A person who needs the last word is still allowing the other person to control their attention. They pull you into an argument, and you follow. They provoke you, and you react. They walk away, and you continue the conversation in your head. That's not freedom. Real strength is being able to say, "I've said what I needed to say," and leave it there. Number 3. Hiding every emotion. This one is easily misunderstood. Stoicism does not mean becoming emotionless. It doesn't mean pretending nothing hurts. It doesn't mean forcing yourself to smile when you're angry, disappointed, or afraid. Emotional control and emotional suppression are not the same thing. Suppression says, "I can't feel this." Control says, "I can feel this without allowing it to control my actions." There's a huge difference. You can be angry and still choose your words carefully. You can be disappointed and still behave with dignity. You can be afraid and still do what needs to be done. That's strength. Because emotions are information. They tell you something is happening inside you. But information doesn't have to become instruction. Just because you're angry doesn't mean you have to attack. Just because you're afraid doesn't mean you have to run. Just because you're hurt doesn't mean you have to hurt someone else. The goal isn't to eliminate emotion. The goal is to stop becoming its servant. 4. Refusing to ask for help. Some people pride themselves on doing everything alone. They don't ask questions. They don't admit they don't know something. They struggle silently because they believe needing help makes them look weak. But there's a difference between independence and pride. Independence means you can stand on your own. Pride says you must never need anyone. Those are very different things. Imagine you're struggling with something that someone else could help you solve in 10 minutes. But you refuse to ask because you don't want them to think you can't handle it. So you spend hours struggling alone. What did you actually prove? That you were capable? Or that your pride was more important than the solution? There is no strength in making life harder simply to protect an image. A strong person knows their abilities, but they also know their limitations. They can say, I don't know. I need help. I made a mistake. I need to learn. Those statements don't diminish you. They make you more honest. And honesty with yourself is one of the foundations of real strength. 5. Revenge. Someone hurts you. They embarrass you. They betray you. They disrespect you. And immediately, part of you wants them to feel what you felt. It can feel powerful. You imagine getting even. You imagine the moment they finally realize what they did. But here's the problem. If someone hurts you and you allow that pain to determine your next action, they've already influenced you. And if revenge causes you to behave in ways that contradict your values, they've taken something even more valuable, your self-control. The Stoic response isn't pretending that wrongdoing doesn't matter. It's refusing to allow someone else's behavior to decide who you become. You don't have to approve of what happened. You don't have to remain around someone who treated you badly. You can create distance. You can set boundaries. You can protect yourself. But you don't have to become cruel simply because someone was cruel to you, because revenge can give you a moment of satisfaction while costing you something much more important. Your peace. 6. Never changing your mind. Some people think changing their mind means they're weak, so they defend the same opinion for years, even when new evidence appears, even when experience teaches them something different, even when they realize they were wrong. Why? Because admitting they changed their mind feels like admitting they lost. But growth requires movement. You are allowed to learn. You are allowed to discover that something you once believed was incomplete. You are allowed to say, I didn't understand this before. I was wrong. I see it differently now. That isn't weakness. That's intellectual humility. A strong mind isn't one that never changes. It's one that can change without losing itself. Think about it. A tree that never bends eventually breaks, and a mind that refuses to reconsider anything eventually becomes trapped by its own certainty. The goal isn't to have no convictions. The goal is to hold your convictions strongly enough to live by them, but honestly enough to examine them. And number 7, trying to control everyone around you. This may be the biggest one. You want people to behave differently. You want them to understand you. You want them to respect you. You want them to make the decisions you think are right. You want circumstances to unfold according to your expectations. And when they don't, you become frustrated. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You can influence people. You can communicate. You can set boundaries. You can walk away. But you cannot control another person's mind. You cannot control their choices. You cannot control whether they like you. You cannot control whether they understand you. And you cannot control how they respond to your boundaries. The more energy you spend trying to control those things, the less energy you have for the one thing that actually belongs to you, your own response. This is one of the deepest ideas in Stoic philosophy. Your power begins with what is yours to control, and peace begins when you stop demanding control over what isn't. Think about how much energy people waste trying to control other people, trying to change someone's opinion, trying to force an apology, trying to make someone regret leaving, trying to make someone understand their value, trying to make someone behave differently. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is stop. Not because you don't care, but because you've finally understood the difference between influence and control. You can't control the world, but you can control the person you bring into the world. And that is where real strength begins. So let's go back to the 7 things. Never admitting you're wrong, needing the last word, hiding every emotion, refusing to ask for help, seeking revenge, never changing your mind, and trying to control everyone around you. Notice something. None of these behaviors necessarily look weak. That's what makes them dangerous. Stubbornness can look like confidence. Silence can look like emotional control. Revenge can look like power. Independence can look like strength. Certainty can look like wisdom. Control can look like leadership. But appearance isn't the same as character. Real strength is quieter. It can admit a mistake without collapsing. It can walk away from an argument without needing victory. It can feel deeply without becoming ruled by emotion. It can ask for help without feeling ashamed. It can be hurt without becoming cruel. It can change its mind when truth demands it. And it can release what it cannot control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That's the challenge. Don't spend your life trying to look strong. Build the kind of character that doesn't need to look strong. Because the strongest person isn't necessarily the loudest person in the room. It's the person who remains in command of themselves when the room gives them every reason not to. So the next time you feel the need to prove yourself, win the argument, hide what you're feeling, get even, or control someone else's behavior, pause and ask yourself, is this strength, or is this simply my ego trying to protect itself? That question alone can change the way you respond to almost everything. Real strength isn't having power over other people. It's having enough power over yourself that other people don't easily control you. If this made you rethink what strength actually means, subscribe to Quiet Command. Because here, we're not trying to become louder. We're learning to become harder to control. Quiet mind, strong character. Command yourself.